So till now what we have seen is, we have seen how the DUT has been written. We have seen how the DUT gets instantiated in the top module, how the TB top gets instantiated, how the interface gets instantiated. And we have also barely looked at the interface code as well. We have not looked at it completely. Let's go through this in detail. So we have seen that the interface is declared like this. The clocking block is this, wherein the outputs of the DUT would be the inputs of the interface, the inputs of DUT would be the outputs of interface. And we have also seen the declaration of mod port. Now let's look at some of the assertions that we have written here. Now as we have already seen that the assertions are of multiple types. It could be immediate assertion or concurrent assertion. So what we have done here is that we have written a couple of assertions and we have tried to write the same assertion in an immediate way as well as in a concurrent way. Now let's see what this assertion does. It says, the assertion says that as we have seen in the DUT specification, that when ALU enable is given, it is the duty of the DUT to assert the result valid in the next passage of clock. Okay, so the DUT must perform the operation that it is supposed to do in a clock and drive the output at the next passage. Along with the output data, it should also assert the result valid. So this assertion checks if that condition gets violated. Since that is a condition in the DUT, so it says assert property is a keyword and the checking event is at the passage of clock. So this property runs at every passage of clock, checks if ALU enable is high. Okay, so it checks if at any passage of clock ALU enable is high, and this keyword indicates that only when ALU enable is high, look for the subsequent condition. Okay, so I'll reiterate what I'm saying, that at the passage of clock it will check for this condition ALU enable to become 1, and if it is 1, only if it is 1, it will look for this subsequent condition. That is, if we come at this passage, since this is a property and it runs at every passage of clock, and at the passage of clock we see that the ALU enable is not high. If it is not high, it will not look for the subsequent condition. Only if ALU enable is high, it will go forward. So this is the keyword for that. So it says that when ALU enable is high at the passage of clock, after 1, #1 indicates that is one event after this. Since the event here is passage of clock, it says that after one clock, that is at the next passage, make sure that the result valid is high. So that becomes the condition. That is, ALU enable high, after one clock passage result valid is high. Since that is a condition in the DUT, if it gets violated, we give this assertion. That is, it says that check for this condition. If it is fine, then it is okay, else fire this assertion saying that the result valid must be asserted in the next cycle of ALU enable. So this is how a concurrent assertion is written. Now if we want to write the same assertion in a different way, we can do it like this. So instead of writing an assert property, we simply declare the property separately and call an assert on it independently. This is the way of coding when the property itself, when the condition that we want to write in the property is a very complex one. In that case, the property is written separately and the assert is called independently on that. And this also helps if you want to use the property apart from assert as well at some other place. So what we do here is that we declare the property separately. So when we declare the property separately, we have to name the property as well. So if you see here, when we wrote the assert property and the condition in a single line, we did not have to write the name of the property. So, but in this case we have to. So what we do is we name the property, let's say result valid, and then the condition. Just like the previous one, we have to write the condition at what event do you want to check it. Since the event here is the passage of clock, so we write at the passage of clock, check for the condition. If ALU enable is high, so as we saw, this is the subsequent condition. If we want to check for the subsequent condition or not, only if ALU enable is high, after one clock, check if the result valid is high. So this in itself becomes a self-contained property, but we are not doing anything with it. We have just declared it and call an end property on it. So this in itself becomes a self-contained block. So we can use this self-contained block to either check an assertion using an assert keyword, or we can simply use it in a block of code to give a warning or to use it in some other block of code. So this is a different way of writing the same code. Now let's say we want to use this property in an assertion. Now we have written this property, and if we want to use this in an assertion, we'll write assert keyword, property, and in the name earlier we wrote the condition, the complete property here. Now instead of writing the complete property, we can simply call the property here. Since we have declared the property as a result valid, we can call that here assert property result valid. That instantiates this code here instead of the result valid. So that means that I will check for this condition. If it is not violated, it is okay, else fire this assertion. Okay, so these are the two different ways of coding the same assertion. So based on the based on the thing that the user wants to do, if it is not a very complex thing and it is a very trivial thing that the user can check in an inline assertion, you can actually call this as an inline assertion. The user does not need to declare the property separately, write the condition in the same assert property, check it. If the property is a complex one, or if you want to use the property in some other block of code as well, then you can declare the property separately, call and assert on it independently. So this is how it can also be done. Now we have declared another assertion. So this assertion, we saw the two different ways of coding the same assertion. Now we will see that how the same assertion can be coded in immediate way or in concurrent way. Okay. Now this is the assertion which says that, as we saw in the duty specifications, that overflow flag shall be asserted only when the result valid is also given by the duty. That makes sense, right? Only when the duty says that I have performed an operation, it can give an overflow flag. How can it give an overflow flag if the result has not been performed? Since result valid is an indication that the duty has performed an operation and has presented the output on the result pins, it shall also indicate whether overflow has happened or not. So this assertion checks that condition. That is, when overflow flag is asserted, the result valid must also be high in the same cycle. So how do we write it using immediate assertion? It says that always at passage of clock, check a condition. If overflow flag is high, look for result valid. If it is high, then it is okay. Otherwise, fire this assertion. Okay, so let's go through the code part now. It is an ever running block in itself, always at passage of clock. Always means run forever based on the condition. And when do we look for the condition? The condition is passage of clock. So look at the passage of clock. If overflow flag is high, then check the result flag. If overflow flag is not high, it will move to the next passage and check it again. So this is how it works. Come at the passage of clock, look for the overflow flag condition. If it is high, check the result valid flag. If it is not high, fire the assertion. If it is high, it is okay. That means the duty works as per the specifications. If the result valid is not high, when the overflow flag is high, it is a violation of the specification. And this is the way of writing this assertion in immediate method. If we want to write the same assertion using concurrent method, this is how we can do it. Just like we saw the last one, assert is the keyword which is used for assertion, property, and this is the property. At the passage of clock, this is the event of the property, check at the passage of clock. If overflow flag is high, as we saw earlier, this is if we want to check the subsequent condition or not. If overflow flag is high, now instead of going to the next passage, because these two would be high in the same clock. So if overflow flag is high, then in the same clock, the hash 0 means at the same event. If overflow flag is high, make sure that the result valid is high. Check if the result valid is high. If this condition matches, it is okay. Else, fire the assertion saying that a result valid must be asserted when overflow flag is asserted. So this is the way an immediate assertion and a concurrent assertion is written. So we have given very simple examples to explain the way the concurrent assertion is written, or an immediate assertion is written, or same assertion can be written in different ways. So this is how we have explained it. We understand that the ALU might have more assertions, and we leave it to the user to explore it more. So this is just a way to explain how the assertions are written. So till now what we have seen is, we have seen the DUT, we have seen how the DUT and the interface and the TB gets instantiated in the top level module of the environment. We have seen the coding of the interface. Now let's check the top level module of the test bench. So as we explained earlier, the program block is the top level module of the test bench. So this is the program is the keyword for this, and this is the name of the program, tb_prg, and the data bus bit that we have passed from outside, and the interface instantiation. Because the program needs to have a handle to the interface, it gets that from the top when it gets instantiated. If we go back to this, so this is where the TB was instantiated, the name of the program, instantiation, and this is where we pass the interface. Okay, so as we have seen earlier, the mailbox is used for inter-process communication. One class will communicate to another class using a mailbox, and a mailbox contains an object of similar type, an or multiple objects, just a single object or multiple objects of the same type. So this is a declaration of the mailbox. So this mailbox will contain, this is the data type of the mailbox, the type of the object that it will contain. Since we will be talking about classes here, so this generator is the object that it will contain. We will go through the coding part of generator as well. So the mailbox will have the objects of type generator, and this is the name of the mailbox, gen to SB. Just to name it meaningfully, this indicates generator to scoreboard. Okay, and another mailbox which again contains the objects of the same type, but this is from driver to scoreboard. So just to give an idea how it works is that we will have two mailboxes. We will create an object, just randomize the inputs, that is called creating an object, creating a set of inputs, that is called creating stimulus, and pass this stimulus as in the form of an object called generator to scoreboard. Because scoreboard is the entity which will compare if the DUT, which will perform the data integrity, whether the DUT worked correctly or not, whether the DUT performed the same operation that it was asked to do or not, and whether it did the operation correctly or not. So we need to pass the raw handle of the object to it. That is done using gen to SB, and the scoreboard also needs a handle of the DUT output. What is the output that the DUT gave after performing the operation? That is passed using this driver to scoreboard. So that is the use of these two mailboxes. So after that, the program, since the TB, as we have seen earlier, the different components of a TB are, it will have a generator, a driver, couple of mailboxes if required, a scoreboard, and a coverage block, functional coverage block. It will also have assertions, and assertions are embedded in the interface as well. Assertions can be written in a separate module which can be bound to the interface, and they can also be written inside the interface file that we have done. Okay, so these are the components that we have instantiated here. The two mailboxes that we need, the driver, the scoreboard, the functional coverage, and these are the instances, the creating handles for these components. And in the initial block, so what the program, the TB top will do is that it will start each of the blocks separately and ask them to perform an operation. Now let's say what it does here. As we have seen, new is the construct which creates a handle of the object. So ALU coverage is the handle, so we create an instance of it, pass the interface to this, generator to scoreboard and driver to scoreboard are the two mailboxes. So when we create a new of this, not passing any value inside this indicates that it is an unbound mailbox. That is, we can have as many objects of type generator inside this mailbox. If we want to pass just one, this indicates that this mailbox contains only one object at a time. It cannot have more than one object if we pass this as new of one. But if we want to create an unbound mailbox, this is the way to do. And then we create handles of the driver and scoreboard. Since the driver needs a handle to the interface and the handle to the two scoreboards, so we pass them as the arguments of the new function. Similarly, the scoreboard also needs the three of them, so we pass these three to the scoreboard as well. Then what we have done here is that we have created a fork join none block and called the scoreboard.starCompare. So we'll go through the functionality of the scoreboard. But for now, let's just understand that this is an API which has been forked out. That is, the scoreboard has been initiated and has been asked to perform an operation. We'll go through what operation it is asked to perform. Similarly, ALU coverage.sample coverage has been called. So when we call fork join none, it indicates that it is a non-blocking operation. These two threads have been forked out. They will start running parallelly and we can move to the next code line. The next code line is that we will say that start of test case, and this is where the actual operation is performed. Since the driver is the guy who is actually going to drive the interface values, that is the values on the interface which will be passed to the DUT as inputs. So this is where we start that. So we say the driver dot start run. Start run is an API in the driver. We'll go through that. And an argument 100. 100 actually indicates the number of operations. So what we have done here is that we have asked the driver to feed 100 test cases, a stimulus of different values, 100 different values to DUT, and see how the DUT performs. We'll go through that. So this is the complete code of the TB top. Let's summarize this once again. In the TB top, we have instantiated the driver, scoreboard, the coverage class, couple of mailboxes, created handles of all of them, and initiated the operation as well. Okay. So this is the most important thing to look at, that we have asked the driver, we have started an API of the driver. The start run operation passes the inputs to the DUT. So this is what this block does.